Hello everybody, Adam Clery from FourFourTwo here, and Manchester United, that whole thing, well, it's not going well, is it? And all this despite numerous dweebs on the internet, such as yours truly, thinking that it probably would go quite well, doing videos saying it was probably going to go quite well, and yet they find themselves 14th in the league table, which is bad, and 14 points away from the Champions League, which is worse, and with less than half of the points Liverpool have, which is shocking. So something right here with these players and this manager and this system is quite spectacularly wrong. So what is it? Now, just really quickly before we start, right, small piece of housekeeping. This is my last video for FourFourTwo. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole thing now. This video is about Manchester United, not me-Chester United. So I will tell you a little bit more at the end of the video, but just in case you don't get there, yeah, this is my last one, and I'm really sad about it. Anyway, though, to business. Ruben Amorim's Manchester United, 14th in the league, and that is not an unfair reflection of how they've been under him. Since he replaced 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔, they have played 16 games in the Premier League, of which they have won 5, drawn 3, and lost 8, giving them 18 points. Now that, if you divide it by the 16 games, gives you like 1.1 points per game, which over the course of a season would give you around 41 points. Now, crucially, over the last 3 seasons, that would not be enough to relegate you. Like, the days of needing 40 points to stay up are long gone, as the Premier League grinds its very fists to dust in their attempts to quietly make the whole thing a closed shop. But regardless, it would put you, in the last 3 seasons, here, here, and here, which is exactly where they are. And they have spent £500 million, almost exclusively, to fend off any late survival chances that Wolves or Ipswich may have, which is, whew, that's insane. So clearly then, demonstrably, there is a big problem here, but what exactly is it? Well, even though the camera is on, I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to articulate this, right? But it's not the players, and it's not the system, except it is actually both of those things because of the way they don't really go together. Like, think about it this way, right? You probably like ice cream, right? Everybody loves ice cream. It's absolutely delicious, one of the best things in the entire world. And you also probably like sticking a cotton bud in your ear every now and then, even though you're not supposed to, I'm aware of that, to give it a good clean. But even though those two things are good, you don't then want Ben & Jerry's to suddenly come out with maximum earwaximum flavour, do you? That would be horrible. And so that, via quite possibly the worst analogy I've ever come out with, is how I would explain this version of Manchester United. Like, this is Ruben Amorim's system. It's the back three we knew he'd play. It's the wing backs we knew he'd play. It's the two sort of like floating attacking 10s that we knew he'd play, and the single centre forward. And like I said at the start of the video, I will hold my hands up here. I was one of the people who thought, well, it's not a perfect fit for every member of the squad, but it should still be pretty good. But the longer time goes on, it now looks like a worse fit than whatever John O'Shea was thinking here with the whole jeans and shoe combo. Straight to prison. And this is the thing, like, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, the system just doesn't fit the players. But what does that actually mean? Why doesn't this system fit these footballers particularly? Well, and this is going to sound like grotesquely oversimplified, right? But it's kind of all about running. Like, the way it's supposed to work, just to give you a quick refresher, is you have 5 players in defence because you've got wing backs, but also when you get into the attack, these 2 play a little bit nearer the goal, and then you end up with 5 players in the attack as well. And as we covered in the 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 video, the reason he was so appealing is because that is a lot of running for one player to do, and they don't really have anybody who's naturally very good at doing that, so he fixes that problem. But it's not just about one wing back. The actual 2 most important players when it comes to running are these 2. Like, at the risk of tooting my own cock far too many times in this video, go back and watch the ones we did about Amorim's system and why that made him so appealing to Man United. Like, we were at pains to point out it's about getting those 4 players into isolated positions, directly attacking the space behind defenders, and then creating high percentage chances for a centre-forward to profit from. Like, Sporting topped all of these metrics in Portugal last season, but Man United, by comparison, are so painfully average at them in the Premier League. Like progressive carry distance, progressive carries per 90, they're not effective at getting on the ball and driving at opponents. That's what they really measure. As a result, chances created directly from take-ons, which is a measure of how many times you go past another player and then make a chance, they're second bottom in the entire league for that. And it should be more or less their whole attacking identity. The number of take-ons is bad. The number of successful take-ons is bad. Their take-on percentage success is bad. Like, this is a system designed for explosive runners that really scare teams, and yet it's kind of full at the minute with, like, methodical passes. And in my opinion, the best illustration of why this isn't working is Rasmus Hojlund. Like, Victor Gyökeres scored 1 million goals in this system last season because they were largely one-touch finishes created by his teammates directly taking on an opponent. And this is, I promise, the last time I'm going to be self-referential in this video, but I said this in November. The objective is not to pass the ball to death around the 18-yard box, slowly waiting for a chance to get in. It is to drive, to run. We talked about this loads in the other video. To get to the byline, to get past defenders, and to square the ball to a natural finisher. And thus, for this Manchester United team, the most important bit of data for these four players are their carrying numbers and their take-on ability. Like, a lot is getting made of Hojlund having a bad 2025, but take this moment from the Fulham game at the weekend. The build-up has worked. They've played through Fulham. They've found Eriksen in a great position to attack this channel here. Except the number 10, who should be there to receive, turn, drive into the half space and commit this defender, is here. It's 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗧𝗏, and that's not me digging him out. That's not really his game at all, is it? He's a centre-forward, likes to drop deep, get involved in the play, that kind of thing. He's not an explosive, direct-running number 10, and as such, he's not occupying the position one of them would. So instead, the ball goes out to 𝗈𝗊𝗻, a fullback who is competent at getting up and down, but by no means an expert dribbler. And of course, the reason why they bought Patrick Dorgu was he would be better suited to this situation, but he's suspended. He's not here, so they got 𝗈𝗊𝗻 instead. And what you would hope Dorgu would do in the situation that 𝗈𝗊𝗻 wouldn't is attack this space here, like blow past the defender and get into this area that Xerxes left. And even at this moment here, just as he realizes he can't do that, the ball could still very easily go instead of him with a little sort of slide pass, but the number 10 is still here. If he's here instead, then there's a great pass on, but he's not, and 𝗈𝗊𝗻 doesn't think he can win the 1v1, so he just gets his head down and runs to the byline. The result then is, rather unsurprisingly, a cross that somehow has to take 3 players out of the equation just to give Hojlund any hope whatsoever of getting on the end of it. And like, at no stage of that move did it look for a second like Man United were going to open Fulham up. But just, let's go back to the start of it, and if you would just humour me here for a second. Imagine this was the sort of player who thrives in this system, right? So he's not here, he's here, and Eriksen gives him the ball, he turns, and he immediately drives into that space. He would draw this defender towards him, and if he beats him, the ball across just requires a blindside run from Hojlund to potentially get a tap in. And even here, if it's a late run instead, he would still draw this defender towards him, leaving a massive amount of space. And it's not like an isolated example like that. This is a minute later. It's the same part of the pitch. 𝗈𝗊𝗻's now stretched out this enormous gap between the fullback and the centre-back, meaning the area they want to attack is now wide open. So well done, you. That's good work. But then where, oh where, is the run from here to here that 𝗈𝗊𝗻 could easily slip the ball into? Just doesn't happen. Nobody makes it. They haven't got the kind of players who like to make it. So instead, what does he do? He gets his head down, he runs to the byline, he tries to put another cross in. And don't get me wrong, by the way, Hojlund is having a bad season regardless. Like, he's not reliably taking the chances he is getting, but he's supposed to be a very specific sort of final piece in a tactical puzzle that is currently just not working full stop. And his little FB ref cutout thing is, like, actually quite depressing to look at, because look at the number of touches and the touches in the opposition box. Like, they're as bad as they could possibly be. And yet, again, he should be doing more with the chances he's getting, but at the same time, when you are that young and you are not getting found and you're waiting for service that just isn't coming, what it must do to your head across the course of the game, the decisions you must make are just horrible. And this is what I mean about his teammates having to take some of the responsibility for this, because this is subtle, but it's maybe a better example. They get a quick throw, and they actually find Eriksen in the exact area that they want to be in, and he does get turned. Now, if that is Sporting Lisbon and one of the players they had, he absolutely then drives forward into the space, starts to commit defenders, chaos ensues, and then possibly in that chaos, 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 can slip his marker, can be found with a pass, and gets a bit of a tap in. But it's not what happens here. Eriksen just immediately crosses the ball into nobody. Like, the whole approach is designed to get players in these areas, but the players that Amorim has in those areas are really uncomfortable being there. And what I imagine must really sting if you're a Man United fan is this moment from Aston Villa versus Cardiff. I've highlighted Marcus Rashford here, and look at the exact area of the pitch he's trying to attack. Look how he goes at the back line with this run, and when the ball gets to him, he cuts it back and leaves a first-time finish for somebody. And again, that's not just a one-off example. Like, every single time Rashford got on the ball in that inside left channel, he looked to drive at the defence. It was the exact kind of performance you'd want out of somebody in an Amorim system. And like, f***ing hell, man, look what Antony did for Real Betis the other day. He gets on the ball, and what does he do? He drives at defenders. He commits them, he draws them out of areas, and he lays on a first-time finish practically for a centre-forward. Like, it must be maddening to see that. I just want I could see see where you're going with that assumption, right? Don't get that twisted. That is not me saying that if only they'd held on to Marcus Rashford and Antony, then this would all be so much better and fixed. There were many different reasons. They were doing nothing in this team, for example, why they had to be moved on. But I'm just saying, you can't help but have a bit of sympathy with Ruben Amorim, because clearly this is a team that isn't that well suited to playing his brand of football, and the players who were suited to it have had to be moved on, which is not only really, really rough, but it's left him with this. And again, important to say, there are caveats, there are injuries. You would have Ahmad in this. Ideally, they've got to try and figure a way to get Garnacho in it. Mainoo's a miss as well. But when this system is successfully, that's the word I want, executed, right, and you turn the back five into the attacking five. I don't know why I moved them all the way back just to move them back. Again, this is the 5 players you end up with in your attacking phase. They all of them have their qualities. I'm not disputing that. But if you are a Premier League defence, any Premier League defence, who here are you scared of? Who are you absolutely petrified that the ball might end up with? Like, I don't see a single player here who is going to reliably and consistently cause huge problems to Premier League defences. Like, Bruno Fernandes, the one player you would say they've got in that category, is usually here. Like, he's needed further back because he's so important to the way they build up through the thirds. And he only tends to find himself in these positions late in games when they're trailing, and he's just got to do it all himself. But even that itself is a problem, because if he feels like he's got to do it all, then he has to do it all. He's not pulling attention away or markers away from these players, giving them the space they need to thrive. He's just trying to do it himself on his own. Like, this is Fernandes' heat map from the Fulham game, right? And that is many things, but it is not a footballer with a clear or defined role. It is somebody who feels like he needs to help out in every single area and every single phase of the game. Like, he's trying to do the work of 3 or 4 different players because he knows that if he doesn't do that, they're going to lose that game of football. Like, these are his passes from the Everton match. And imagine just showing somebody that, not telling them who it was. Ask them what position they even think they were playing. You wouldn't know. Like, he's having to drop into the right-back area. He's floating around as a 10 occasionally. And yet still, there's very little going on in the really important areas. And that's not because he's a bad player and he's being ineffective, but because there's just nothing going on in those areas. They're very bad at playing in them. And just the final point that... sorry, hang on. Oh, God, sorry. Some graphics on my face there. The final point I'll make about this, right, is that these are 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 and 𝗈𝗏�'s pass maps from the same game. Now, I'll bet, on first glance, you can't even tell me which way they were attacking in this match. Like, it's actually quite hard to figure out, right? And tragically, it was in this direction. And that means that almost every single pass they made in the final third was backwards. There is a complete absence of anybody to get involved with in these major areas of the pitch. So when the possession was good, when they were able to get into this shape, they were in situations where they could not really impact the play, because Man United just don't really do anything in these spaces. And just to make matters worse, these are all of their passes, yes, and I will now replace them with every successful take-on both of these players did. Every time they took the initiative themselves, saw the lack of another player, and got in there to make it happen. Right, you ready? A little drum roll. And when the system just fundamentally is not working, this is what it ends up looking like, right? So this is Fernandes, he gets on the ball and he gets turned. Now the objective here should be to find 𝗧𝗀𝗧𝗏, then for him to get turned, attack this space and then square it across for Hojlund. But not one single element of how the Amorim system is supposed to play actually happens here. Hojlund just wants it over the top immediately, so he's trying not to stray offside, but in the process, because he's not running, he's not stretching the defence, meaning it's all just this horrible condensed space that's now too small to safely find 𝗧𝗀𝗧𝗏. Now what Fernandes should do in that situation is go across the pitch and find the other 10, because he's got that kind of ball delivery in his locker, but if we go and look, there isn't one. He's not there. They were sort of using 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 in this role, who's like a defensive midfielder, and that's just never where he's going to stand. Now just imagine if in this situation they had some sort of lightning-fast, rapid, brave, aggressive ball carrier standing exactly where he should be. Fernandes, I think, could quite easily find him with that pass, and then Everton, from here, would be in real trouble. But they don't, do they? They've got 𝗧𝗀𝗧𝗏 and 𝗘𝗫𝗓𝗏, so he just goes over the top and Everton sweep up. Except, no, they don't just sweep up. They make 3 passes and they completely play through Manchester United, get in behind, and that's where that weird nobody wanted the ball goal comes from. And that is the real cost of having a system that keeps breaking down. Because yes, your attacks don't work and you're not effective at doing that, but then everybody goes slightly mad trying to get the ball back because they're not really sure what the best thing to do is. Like, teams hurt you as a result of it. So overall, the point I'm trying to make is it's not really Amorim's fault. Like, this is a good system that works very effectively, that can be really dangerous. And these aren't bad players. There's clearly a lot of talent in this expensively assembled squad. But when you take this particular group of players and this particular brand of football and you put them together, nothing happens. Now, I, as I've already said twice, thought that something would happen. I thought this would be quite good, but that is why I make videos on YouTube and directors of football are paid untold millions to make these decisions. And so to answer the question, what is the problem? Well, the problem is that they hired a manager who exclusively plays high-energy, direct-running, attacking football and asked him to just magically apply that to a team mostly assembled by a manager who believed in high pressing and rotating positional play. And if the solution to what's going wrong here is to ask Amorim to get back to basics, go to a back four, stop trying to do this, just do everything nice and simply, then what you've really given him is a caretaker's job. And you could have had Van Nistelrooy do that for a fraction of the cost. Now, full disclosure, I do think this will get better for Manchester United, but I don't think it'll get much better, and I don't think it'll get better quickly. So yes, that's it from me in the grandest possible sense, as I mentioned at the start. This is my last tactics video for 442. We'll have like a bit more information about it. I'll do a little video explaining what the situation is later on in the week. It's all very exciting, it's all very good, but also enormously sad because I love this. I love doing these, and I love all you lot. So change is fun. You will probably like the change, but change is also scary and makes me do this. And so now, more than ever, I would encourage you to check out the old socials at Adam Clery, Clery, Twitter, Instagram, all the other ones. I forget what they're called because announcements will be being made there. And if you like these kinds of videos, then you will like said announcements. But of vital importance is the fact that 442 is not going absolutely anywhere. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, there's going to be some wonderful things happening here as well. So there's nothing stopping you from clicking that as well. There's plenty of love to go around. The 442 socials are in the corner of the video. The latest issue of the magazine is in shops now because that's where magazines live. And until next time. Wow, I didn't really think this through. Oh, that's got me right in the heart. Until next time, we'll do a thing where I say all the things. I'm not going to say all the things now, but I will say thank you very much for watching. These are my favourite thing I've ever done. I love you enormously, and I will see you very soon. Bye, 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 don't leave me, bye. Oh, what am I going to do? Bye, bye.